Pam, thanks very much, and welcome to Championship Week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. It continues here at the Times Union Center in Albany. Either Fairfield or Siena is going to the NCAA tournament as we bring you the MAAC championship game. What a rivalry and what a terrific tournament it has been that brings us up to the number 1 seed Siena and their star seniors led by point guard Ronald Moore going up against the number 2 seed Fairfield, who was a winner against Niagara in the semis. Bob Wischusen alongside not former Providence coach tonight, Tim Welsh. Normally, that's the way we bring the coach in. Tonight, you are former Iona coach Tim Welsh, because you're back in your old stomping grounds in a conference I know that is near and dear to your heart here in the MAAC.
Well, there's no question about it. There's a lot of energy in the building because there's a lot at stake. And in these so-called one-bid leagues, you know this is their national championship tonight. Here we go. Great point guard play to start.
Edwin Ubelis drives the baseline. That won't go. Tipped around, and it ends up in the hands of Jamal Turner. Turner brings it up, but watch number 3 in red, Derek Needham, the MAAC Rookie of the Year. He was the Rookie of the Week 10 times this season, and he goes backdoor and scores the game's first points.
Right out of the gate, a special that Eddie Cooley put in this morning. Backdoor cut.
Ubelis answers at the other end with a triple, and we're off to the type of spark you would expect we would be off to the way this tournament has gone this weekend.
Well, Fran McCaffrey's smiling inside because Edwin Ubelis is off to a great start. Last night struggled for a long time against Ryder, as did Siena, so they broke through in the last 10 minutes.
The player of the year in the conference, Alex Franklin, gets the steal, and Crawford commits the foul as we take a look at the starting lineups for these two teams. Now, Needham and Moore, a terrific point guard matchup, but we have an equally great matchup in the middle. For Fairfield, Anthony Johnson, their senior, has been tremendous.
Well, just a power guy up front for Eddie Cooley, and you're looking at probably 6 out of the top 10 players in this conference, including Ryan Rossiter at 18 rebounds last night to help Siena in their semifinal win over Ryder.
Now, that matchup in the pivot will be as exciting to watch as the matchup at the point guard spot. And there's Ronald Moore with an elbow jumper to extend the Siena lead.
Ronald Moore's jumper starting to get freshened up. He's struggled all season long. Hit a couple big shots last night. People have laid off him. He'll make you pay, though. He's starting to get into a rhythm. He's only shooting about 22% on the season, so people have laid off him, but he's a key guy from the perimeter.
Turner can't hit. Tapped around, and Ubelis fouled by Needham. So Needham called for his first, and Ronald Moore, again, number 1 in college basketball in assists, only averages about 7 points a game.
Well, Bob, almost unguardable if he starts doing this. He's reached back and hit some threes as of late. Fran McCaffrey says, I have confidence in him hitting the three ball from the outside. About a 30% guy traditionally this year, as we said, in the 20s, but finding his rhythm late in the season.
One more assist, and he would tie the all-time MAAC record for assists during a career. He has had a terrific senior year and a terrific career. Straightaway jumper. Clarence Jackson in and out, tapped around, and eventually it's run down by Sean Crawford.
Fairfield will try to push the pace. They understand this. Going against Siena's half court is going to be very difficult.
Needham got Rossiter caught on a switch, and the freshman does it again.
Got caught out there on a mismatch. Needham made him pay.
And Rossiter at the other end scored the basket.
High percentage, and you talk about Derek Needham. He finds a big guy on him. He's going to make him pay either off the bounce, but that time they laid off him. And now Rossiter at the other end paying him back with a little of his game on the low box.
Anthony Johnson called for the foul. Ryan Rossiter, number 10 in the league in scoring, but not just number 1 in the MAAC in rebounding, 5th in the country in double-doubles, as he averages a double-double. 14 points, 11 rebounds per game.
Also, 32 blocks, 45 steals. Really unusual for a big guy. He's got a lot of great stats across the board.
78% free throw shooter, so a rare miss. Wide open Turner. In and out.
Ubelis early with the energy for Fran McCaffrey.
Finds Jackson for 3. Out of bounds to Siena. Ed Cooley in his 4th year came to Fairfield after 9 years as an assistant at Boston College and a year at URI with Al Skinner. 5th 20-win season ever at Fairfield this year, and the first in about 13 years. Every single year that Ed Cooley's been at Fairfield, the wins have gone up. 13 wins, 14 wins, 17 wins, and now this year 22.
If you told me they had Urel Hawkins and Warren Edney and some of the other guys that they're missing, I'd say yes, they'd be here. But with all the injuries, no one thought Fairfield would be here, but Eddie's done a super job this season.
Backdoor look. Jackson has it blocked. And then a foul call. That will go against Clarence Jackson. He was shut down by Anthony Johnson and then commits the foul.
Fairfield imposes that Eddie Cooley type toughness. I mean, when you watch them on tape, you just say, what do they do well? Not much, but they do everything pretty good. They're just a solid basketball team led by Eddie's toughness, and that guy at the top, the point guard, a real special player, Needham.
Looking for their first MAAC championship since 1997.
Just got to look to get Johnson some touches, not out there, but on the low box.
Shot clock down to 10. Crawford tries to penetrate with the ball fake around Rossiter and gets the bounce.
Crawford's sneaky good out there. You paid too much attention to Johnson and Needham, and he'll burn you. He had 25 in their game against Niagara at the end of the regular season.
Ubelis takes a bump and is called for traveling. Back-to-back turnovers for the Saints, who won by 10 yesterday in their semifinal matchup with Ryder, a team they had dominated twice during the regular season in the MAAC, but a game that was far more competitive than the final score would indicate. Fairfield was in an equally difficult game with Niagara. They survived by 6, so the 1 and 2 seeds both had to earn their way to the title game. Now it's Nickerson from the corner, another freshman. He can't hit.
Good strategy there early by Fran McCaffrey. Trapping on the ball screen at the top. They did that in their game about a month ago.
How about the no-look? Moore hit inside to Franklin. He missed the layup, and it squeezes back out to Moore. Ubelis from the corner. Air ball. In transition, here comes Derek Needham, the freshman, coast to coast. The pace picks up. Rossiter can't finish, but it's slammed down by Alex Franklin. Wave off the basket. Basket interference called against the Conference Player of the Year. The start you would expect to the MAAC championship game.
All Needham needs is a little light. He found it, and he's going to finish that every time.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. Every season starts at Dick's.
Welcome back to Championship Week, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. It's the championship game of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, not to be confused with the Mid-American Conference. The MAAC with 2 A's between Siena and Fairfield. A 2-point lead early for the Stags. A small school in Fairfield, Connecticut. Only 3,300 students, high academic standards, and now high athletic standards as well, as Ed Cooley has taken this program back to where it was at the end of the 90s in contention for a championship. And Siena, equally small, only an enrollment of 3,000 just outside of downtown Albany in Loudonville, New York. But this is the dynasty, at least under Fran McCaffrey, in this conference. Siena began this season 6-4. They're 20-2 since, 17-1 in the MAAC during the regular season. And for the 4th year in a row, they're in the MAAC championship game, and they're looking for their 3rd straight conference title in a row.
How about 37 in a row right here on this hardwood? And people say, is that a home court advantage? Well, they've built this home court advantage over the years. Great tradition of winning. Fran McCaffrey talked about it from year to year with his seniors.
Alex Franklin with the rebound. Ubelis forces his way to the goal, and that is swatted away by Ryan Olander.
Ubelis with good energy early. He didn't have it last night in the Ryder game, as we mentioned earlier, and I thought he just kind of laid around in the first half, let things happen. He's trying to make things happen early, but you got to do it within the context of Fran's offense.
Jackson drives and throws it down.
Well, Fran McCaffrey will take that offensive execution anytime. Fairfield slip up there on the baseline out. Jackson saw a little light, took the baseline. Nothing there as far as help for Fairfield.
That lit the crowd up. From the corner, Crawford tries to quiet them. No good, and Franklin the rebound. This is basically a pure road game for Fairfield. You can call it a neutral court. It's not. Blocking foul called on Olander. That will put Alex Franklin at the free throw line. Just give Jackson a little crack of light, and he takes advantage.
He's a big-time athlete, and Fairfield's going to get up on his shoe tops because he's known mostly as a scorer, and Fran McCaffrey talked about it today. He said, the X will be on the O. In basketball terms, we know the X is the defense, and they're going to get up on him. But that time, they couldn't even find him. They were looking help side there, and he just found a little light.
Lyndon Jordan comes on for the first time, replacing Sean Crawford for Fairfield. Just to think about what Fairfield is up against tonight in terms of conference honors. All 5 players that are in the starting lineup for Siena were honored with some type of recognition by the MAAC. And Edwin Ubilis is the second leading scorer in conference games this season, averaged 17.2 points per game in conference play, and was only second team All-MAAC. 3 of his teammates made first team.
Well, that's what Fran talked about today, but unselfishness throughout the team. No one cares about those honors. No one will remember who made second team All-MAAC. They'll remember who wins this game tonight, and you see that early. They're just really sharing the ball, aggressive on the defensive end.
And steps back, in and out from 3. Another rebound for the player of the year, Alex Franklin.
Right there. There's the key guy for Siena. They've got to try to keep him in check. Ronald Moore, they're going to give him a little space, try to not let him get his angles into the lane where he's just super dangerous.
Ubilis fades away. And Needham the rebound.
Matchup here, the long 3-man and Ubilis guarding the smallest point guard in Needham.
Needham double teamed, bounces one, and a reach-in foul called on Clarence Jackson. That'll be his second. So let's see if Fran McCaffrey goes to the bench, and he will. Here comes Kyle Downey. Jackson has to sit down with 2 fouls.
Well, that's the gamble you take when you trap somebody out in the middle of the floor. If he breaks through or finds somebody over the top, then you've got numbers in the backside, and now Siena's got a little foul trouble. But the second half of their game a month ago here, Bob, they decided to trap Needham every time he came off a ball screen, and they were very successful with it.
Flashing to the goal is Ivanovic. He can't hit. Tapped around. Olander with a try. He'll go to the line. A chance for a 3-point play for Ryan Olander.
Ryan Orlander's very skilled, and Eddie Cooley talked about his skill level, but he wants him to be inside. He's taken some threes this year, and Eddie said, excuse me, sir, you can take those threes in the summertime, but no more during games. Get down in the paint where it's not wet, and you're 6'11", and do some damage, and early, he's doing it early.
Olander completes the 3-point play. That was a funny comment that Ed Cooley made earlier today. So the next 3 you take for us will be the last 3 you take for us. Get down in the paint. That is where Alex Franklin does his damage and does it again right there.
Well, Eddie Cooley makes a lot of funny comments to his team as well. I think that's what he keeps them loose. He walks with an air of confidence. He's got this ball club in this game. No one thought they would be here, but it's because of Ed's confidence and the maturity with his club on the road.
Up and under move by Jordan won't go. Knocked out of bounds, stays with Fairfield. It was a loose shoot-around earlier today, and the loosest guys at the shoot-around were Needham and Colin Nickerson, the 2 freshman guards. You would have had no idea that they were playing a championship game tonight if you were at the Fairfield practice today. Here's Nickerson on the drive, scoops it up and in, right around Rossiter.
He scooped it up, slithery to the rack. Only 150 pounds, but very skilled offensively is Nickerson.
Already 6 early lead changes. Not can't hit. There's the freshman, Colin Nickerson, with the rebound.
Key guy for Siena off the bench, Odi Anasicki, coming in now. He sprained his knee in the first game against Manhattan. We'll see how effective he is.
Another chance for a 3-point play for Ryan Olander. And a timeout on the floor. The number 2 seed on the number 1 seed's home floor, but an early message from Fairfield.
Well, Siena's got the bigs, but Fairfield's showing a little toughness at the rack.
Another three-point play opportunity for Ryan Olander, and you can see the intensity on the face of Ed Cooley, who kept his team loose, though, earlier today at shoot-around. Derek Needham gave us his best Ed Cooley impersonation. This was funny stuff. This is the freshman point guard. Joined by Colin Nickerson. Basically, Ed Cooley said to his team during a drill and shoot around when someone made a mistake, if you guys do that tonight, you're going to get the Ed Cooley. Who's going to give me the Ed Cooley impersonation? And that was Derek Needham's cue, and he gave us the Ed Cooley impersonation.
Well, you can do that, Bob, when you play 36 minutes a game and you have those type of numbers you see right there. I mean, you kind of have a free wheel to do anything you want before the game, as long as you show up and do what he does. And right now what he's doing very, very well, he's attacking the trap, he's attacking one of the trappers and just getting rid of it, and they're attacking before Siena can recover.
Olander couldn't complete the three-point play. Moore rises and fires and comes up way short. Ivanovic with the loose ball.
Talk about the freshmen, and you look at Nickerson and Needham, and it's just unbelievable. Their looseness, their confidence early in this game. I mean, such a big venue, home court, 37-game winning streak for Siena. They're just playing loose as a goose.
Nickerson hits the pull-up. Did that surprise you at shoot-around that the two freshmen especially would be that cool, calm, and collected?
It did. It really did. But, you know, these kids today, they played so many games before they get to college that it's no big deal. It's just another game in the park, and you see early Nickerson and Needham just kind of playing in a great flow. Eddie's coaching them, but they space the court and kind of play very, very freely out there.
Biggest lead for either team right now, a game that featured 6 lead changes through the first 7 minutes. Olander inside again. That time doesn't get the roll. It's out of bounds off of Olander.
Well, again, Needham did a nice job of attacking the trap, and Ivanovic made a nice pass into Olander, and they spaced the court very, very well with their bigs. And back then, they just couldn't deliver.
Well, you want a good comparison if you're Derek Needham? How about John Wall? And I was going to compare the two, obviously tremendous. The Big East Championship, by the way, coming up on our ESPN family of networks. We'll have all of those games for you, but Derek Needham and John Wall, two pretty good freshman point guards. Now, obviously a different level of competition, but to step in as a freshman and dominate the league the way Needham did this season.
Well, that's all you need to see right there. Those numbers across the board, how solid. And when you game plan for Fairfield, you say stop Needham and Johnson, that's it. And then so that's even more amazing. He doesn't have the help John Wall does as well. So you got to look at it that way, but just always plays with a great pace to his game.
Good start for Alex Franklin. 1,700 point career scorer at Siena.
Siena really struggling guarding Fairfield man-to-man, showing a little 3-2 matchup zone here on this possession.
Jordan drives baseline. The reverse goes.
That can happen for Siena. Guy drives all the way baseline against your zone with no help recovery on the weak side.
Franklin, a little runner in the lane, won't go. Olander grabs the rebound, and here comes Needham walking it up. Again, you see the composure of the freshman. It looked like he wanted at first to duck his shoulder and take off and push tempo. Immediately caught the ear of Ed Cooley. Slows it up. Ivanovic from the corner. He's the three-point specialist. Leads the league at 45%. And a timeout called by Fran McCaffrey. An 11-2 run.
Well, Fairfield really does a nice job of spacing the court. They're making Siena pay.
We'll step aside. The triple from Ivanovic. And Fairfield the early lead. Championship week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. It's the championship in the MAAC. Fairfield, the number 2 seed, against the dynasty in this conference, the number 1 seed Siena. And the Stags open up the early 8-point lead for Ed Cooley, causing Fran McCaffrey to call his first timeout. The crowd here at the Times Union Center, the home court here in Albany for Siena, is stunned a bit.
Well, they should be, because Fairfield came out with a lot of confidence, but they played on this floor 1 month ago tonight. Played Siena to a 2-point game, tapped the buzzer. It was never more than 5-6 points, so they're playing with a lot of confidence.
Ubelis got caught in midair and turned it over. Needham explodes to the goal, finishes, plus the foul for the freshman.
One thing you have to do with Derek Needham, you can't let him get ahead of steam. And here he sees the seas part. They don't have anybody stop the ball. They're all backpedaling on retreat, and then he'll make you pay. They got to slow the ball up outside the three-point line, or even sooner. If not, Needham will be too dangerous to stop.
Doesn't get the roll. Franklin the rebound, but still a dominant start for Fairfield. And then a backcourt turnover. A double dribble for Siena.
Siena really kind of has a lost look on their face, kind of thinking that they may be up 10, but Needham's just smiling and make them pay.
Tuesday championship week continues. Full coverage of the first round of the Big East Championship. ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD. We'll have South Florida and DePaul, UConn and St. John's. Doubleheader to start the day. And at 7 Eastern, the night session on ESPNU and ESPNU HD. The ESPN family of networks brings you every game of the Big East Championship, all part of Championship Week, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. A three! Knocked down by Lyndon Jordan. It's a 13-point lead for Fairfield.
There, Siena got caught watching Needham. They thought he was picking up his dribble, but one thing he does really, really well, he keeps his dribble until he finds that open man.
Ubelis leaves for Rossiter.
Siena's really mixing and changing their defense almost on every possession here now in the flat 2-3 zone, trying to find some way to stop.
Ivanovic can't hit that three. Boy, that was right on line. And the long rebound run down by Nickerson. Ed Cooley tells his team to cool off.
The amazing thing, Bob, is that Anthony Johnson hardly has touched the ball here in the first 12 minutes of the half, and Fairfield's up by 11.
Now it goes down to Johnson over Rossiter.
That's what their balance tonight will do. Now they're really extending to the three-point line. That time, good identity. Went inside to Johnson.
Ubelis down the lane, fades away and hits. You said it earlier today. He was second team All-MAAC, but if you could somehow have a draft, he'd probably be the first player taken.
I would think I would draft 6 of these guys, maybe 1 through 6. They're super with no disrespect to guys like Ryan Thompson from Ryder and some of the other great players in this league, but you're seeing 6 of the best right here tonight.
Nickerson left alone. Rossiter the rebound. Franklin spins to the baseline. Can't hit. Ivanovic hands it off to Needham. Numbers for Fairfield. Nickerson tried to shovel it back to Needham. It found its way there. And he gets it to go.
Now it's early trouble for Siena, because on that possession they jogged back on defense, and Fairfield just beating them repeatedly down the floor.
A 20-6 run. Griffin had his shot blocked, and he fouled Lyndon Johnson. 11 points already for Derek Needham, and a double-digit lead for Fairfield. Championship week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, rolling on here in Albany, the home court of Siena, but so far it's been owned by the Fairfield Stags, Bob Wischusen, and former Iona head coach Tim Welch. I'm introducing you that way all night. This is where you cut your teeth as a coach here in the MAAC. You're not surprised, I'm sure, at the intensity of this game, although we were just away a moment ago, and there are some things about the pace of Siena's play that would concern you if you're Fran McCaffrey.
Well, Fran McCaffrey, his team has trailed before, and they've come back and won, especially on this court. But what the problem I think he has early tonight is that his team isn't playing with that same energy. They're kind of flatlining right now. And the last couple possessions, Derek Needham is a load to cover in transition. But Siena, on the other hand, jogged back on defense. And I think Fran McCaffrey on that last timeout really got into his team. He's got to keep getting into them, because right now they're not fired up enough to match Fairfield's intensity.
Crawford back in the game, sets up Ivanovic for three again. He comes up short. Boy, that's a dodged bullet for Siena. If you leave Ivanovic open and he misses a three, that's a gift.
Well, again, not closing out quickly enough, kind of a half step slow on every possession defensively.
Ubilis, a lot of dribbling, a lot of one-on-one. And half the shot clock's now gone as Ubilis gets shut down in the corner. Now it's Moore with 10 to shoot. Down to 5 on the shot clock. Ubilis again has to go one-on-one down the lane. Knocked away. Ivanovic got a piece. And Crawford will wait for some help.
Nice decision by Crawford. Didn't have the numbers, didn't force.
Nickerson on the baseline. Colin Nickerson scores again.
And again, Siena not getting back and identifying people, finding people in transition, getting reorganized on the defensive end. Too slow.
How about the freshman? Needham has 11, Nickerson has 6. There's the three from the corner, though, as Ubilis answers.
Well, one thing Fairfield has done with these quick runouts and their scoring ability has slowed Siena down and not allowed them transition points. But here, again, the nice drive by Nickerson taken to the baseline and absolutely no help there coming from the weak side. Rossiter pinned up top. Siena too slow on the recovery.
The officials have gone over to the scorer's table to check out the monitor, see if that last shot was a 2 or a 3. Jim Haney and Brian Dorsey over taking a look at the monitor. We'll take another look. And obviously impossible to tell from that angle. It looked like he had his right foot behind the line. Kind of bent that right toe in to stay in three-point land, but tough to tell.
He seems securely behind the line, but on the step up, it's hard to tell. Coaching-wise there, Fairfield a little off balance. Had two guys on more, and Siena identified it there, and Ubilis had the easy bucket in the corner.
Ed Cooley is a very interesting guy. You know, we're talking about his relationship with some of his players, and Anthony Johnson in particular. They made a connection because Ed Cooley was taken in by a family growing up in Rhode Island. He was one of 8 kids, had a single mother, and they do now rule it is a three-point goal. But tough situation growing up. So at about 10 years old, he met a family, Gloria and Eddie Wright, the parents, and they took him in. And he was basically raised for the most part. He has a great relationship with his biological mother, he told us, but has a great relationship, obviously, with his adopted parents as well. And Anthony Johnson was basically in that same situation growing up. Father, he never knew him. His mom passed away when he was about 3 years old of a heart attack. She was a drug addict. So he was adopted, and he also was raised well by an adopted family. And the two basically struck a bond because of that made Anthony Johnson, who is now called for an offensive foul, want to come up and play for Ed Cooley at Fairfield.
Well, Ed Cooley is using his best restraint there. He didn't like that call. But Anthony Johnson has been known to chitter chatter a little bit too much with the officials. That time on the back end down low, he's just going to take the call and move on because his team is playing great basketball. He'll come out and get a little rest.
That's his second foul, so he has to go to the bench with 4.5 minutes to go.
Well, Jimmy Haney had a great look at it, down low. So he's just got to take this, try to keep the lead at 10 or more with him on the bench.
Franklin with the left hand, it won't go. And in among the trees, Sean Crawford with the rebound, and again numbers. Stolen by Moore. It's out of bounds off Ivanovic. As Siena was about to turn the tide the other way, they had numbers on a fast break chance, but Moore, what a terrific steal.
Well, Crawford left his feet there. It wasn't a good play, but Moore, that's what he's got to do. He's got to re-energize Siena on the defensive end and then get some run-outs.
Ubilis with the ball fake.
Siena real slow and kind of sluggish with their cuts on the offensive end.
Ubilis no good. Tapped around, just missed inside by Franklin. And now Needham takes over.
I've watched Siena a lot this year, Bob. And usually they have a lot of cuts, a lot of special plays. They seem to be standing around one guy with the ball, everybody else watching right now.
March with 8 on the timer. A handoff to the freshman of the year. Needham with 4 to shoot. Way outside. Moore, like he's going to attack at first. Ball movement. And Ubilis backs it back out. Great defensive recovery by Fairfield. Ubilis can't hit the pull-up. Griffin an offensive rebound.
More spark. It started on the defensive end with some denials. Siena looks like they're ready to make a move.
Ubilis operating down low.
I think their energy started on the defensive end. Jackson did a nice job come up denying that entry pass on the elbow off the flex. Then they'll get the runouts going, better cuts on the offensive end.
Shot clock at 10 for the Stags. Crawford drives. Ivanovic tips it back up and in.
Ivanovic has been down in the low box a little bit more. Freddie Cooley loves to spend his time on the three-point line, but there Siena didn't find a body.
Moore sets up Franklin with the left hand, squeezes it through.
That's Ronald Moore at his best, just finding that slithering space in the middle of the defense, and then Franklin with that improved offensive effort.
Moore has already set the all-time MAAC record for assists here in the first half. Ball movement for Olander. Blocking foul called. The third time here in the first half that Ryan Olander will have a chance for an old-fashioned three-point play. We'll step aside for just a moment. Fairfield takes some punches, and they keep answering.
Well, the bigs can slide and move. There, Olander delivering.
Well, Ryan, last year, Joe Lenardi's bracketology really didn't even have to include Siena. And their RPI was up around 22 or 23 at this point. Even if they lost this championship game, they were going to be in. But they're not even a part of the last 4 in, first 4 out right now. They really need to win this game tonight in the MAAC championship game, as Illinois had some damage done to their hopes. But Joe Lenardi still has them in.
Well, he does, and they got a rematch with Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament. How about Herb Sendek? Just couldn't do enough in Raleigh, NC State. They shipped him out to Arizona. All he does is get to the NCAA tournament every year. They weren't supposed to be there this year, but again, making a late run, and one of the best coaches in all of college basketball, Herb Sendek.
Ryan Olander, who averages 6 points per game, has 8 in the first half. 2 3-point plays, and it's back to a 13-point lead for Fairfield.
Change of D here off the timeout. Eddie Cooley back into his matchup zone.
A turnover, miscommunication. Franklin rolls, and the pass was behind him. Crawford can't hit. Down on the deck, and it ends up with Ubilis. Ubilis leans in and scores.
Great steal by Crawford on the previous possession. Should have pulled it off, though, instead of going 1-on-2.
12 here in the first half for Edwin Ubilis, who averages about 15 a game.
Interesting. Last couple possessions, pushing Derek Needham off the ball, letting Crawford do a little point guard work. Now Needham back at the top.
Taking time off the clock. The 35 is down to 10. 5 seconds to shoot. Olander turns a little too strong, and the shot clock now turned off. Siena can hold for 1, but they're down by double figures.
Good move by Olander down in the low box. Turn, squared, posted strong.
Ronald Moore with the clock down to 12.
Set a little flare screen here on the outside.
Starts to get busy with the shot clock down to 5. Moore sets up Rossiter. Down to 2 seconds. That won't go. Fairfield at 1 point led here in the first half by 15, and they have an 11-point lead at halftime.
Well, they did it with quickness in transition off Siena's uneven offense. They made him pay by getting runouts and numbers going the other direction. Siena's got to re-energize in the locker room.
the #1 seed, in some trouble maybe on their home floor to the #2 seed. The MAAC championship game led by Fairfield. Double figures at halftime. Now it's Ryan Burr and Jay Williams back in our studios. The Cisco halftime report. The second half for a team that went 17-1 in the regular season in the MAAC, including a regular season sweep of Fairfield. But the last time Fairfield came up here towards the end of the regular season in February, it was a 2-point game won by Siena. Needham on the move. Offensive rebound and the putback inside by Anthony Johnson.
Well, no excuse there for Siena. Anthony Johnson was the only weak side player there for Fairfield. Surrounded by 4 guys by Siena, he just outworked them.
Franklin floats a jumper home.
Fran McCaffrey really trusts his basketball team, and rightfully so, all the wins they've had over the last 4 years, but I'm sure he got into him a little bit at halftime.
Johnson scores, as you saw Siena pick up with some full court pressure, at least token pressure, and that was something that Ed Cooley told us at shoot-around he hoped would happen.
Well, he hopes it happened because he adjusted his press offense. He's got scorers in the back instead of the front.
Moore sets up Franklin.
Both teams out of the locker room, punch, counter punch offensively. Very organized against the pressure. Side, back, middle, attack when they can.
Needham, straightaway 3. In and out. Rossiter runs down the loose ball and looks for his point guard. Franklin drives. Tapped around. Ends up in the hands of Colin Nickerson.
I like that move, though, by Alex Franklin. He's got to do that more often. It's an improved part of his game this season, off the bounce, but he's got to make things happen on the interior.
Needham left alone, and he knocks it down again.
That's why he's so good. He's good with the ball. He's good without the ball. That time coming off a baseline screen.
Ubelis finds Franklin, but a foul called before the pass.
Well, Ronald Moore off the bounce. We know he can create. He finds those angles, but on the other end, Needham coming off that little screen, coming off a little curl there. He's very, very tough, even as a 2-guard.
Jackson attacks. Clarence Jackson had to sit down with 2 fouls with about 5 minutes to go in the first half. He was terrific against Ryder. Had 17 points in the semifinal win yesterday.
Well, there's no question Fran McCaffrey had a long talk with his group in the locker room because they are playing much differently on the offensive end. Attacking quickly on ball reversal into the gaps, making things happen right away.
Johnson a turnaround. Rossiter the rebound. Moore tried to whip one through to Franklin off his fingertips. And Tuesday night on ESPN, Championship Week continues. 2 more conference championship games. First at 7 Eastern. Connecticut takes on the winner of Rutgers, West Virginia, the Big East women's title game. And then at 9 Eastern, Wright State and number 12 Butler battle for the Horizon League title. All part of Championship Week, presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. Tomorrow night, for more information, log on to ESPN.com. Takeaway by Ubelis. Hands it off to Franklin. Timeout called by Ed Cooley. This is a neutral court game in name only. Is the crowd back into it?
Well, Fran McCaffrey's got it. Team back in it with energy on defense.
Technically, we're on a neutral floor for the MAAC championship game. Yeah, right. We're in Albany. This is the hometown of the Siena Saints. Now, to show you what Fairfield's up against, that's basically it. That's their cheering section. The whole rest of the building, and you can tell when the court colors are the same color as one of the teams that's in the game. This is a partisan crowd, and as a result, in this tournament, Tim Welsh, it has led to inspired comebacks in a quarterfinal win and a semifinal win for Siena.
we played in this building in this game in '98 when we were at Iona against Siena, and Paul Hewitt tried to tell me when he was a coach of Siena that this was a neutral floor, and he told all the media that, and I said, please, Paul, can you give me a break with that? We're in Albany. This is your home court, but give these fans all the credit in the world. They built this up, starting with Paul Hewitt, going way even back to Mike Dean as coaches, great players, and Fran McCaffrey's done an unbelievable job with this program, and tonight they're in for it, though.
Rossiter the steal. Ubelis underneath to Jackson. And the follow by Franklin. Another takeaway by Moore. Knocked out of bounds. Good hands by Needham. That doesn't quiet the crowd, though.
A big difference from the first half. In Fairfield's execution, they're throwing these lob passes. Instead of being aggressive with short, crisp passes and taking it off the bounce, they're throwing it up in the air, and Siena's smelling blood right now.
Rossiter, wide open jumper, knocks it down. And what was once a 15-point Fairfield lead is cut down to 5. Kick by Ubelis. Will step aside. The Times Union Center on their feet as Fairfield has their lead. Cut by 2/3. Championship week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods, and they are hopping here in Albany. Siena on an 8-0 run. They've hit 6 of their first 8 second-half shots to take what was an 11-point halftime lead, and at one point a 15-point lead for Fairfield in the first half, and cut it down to 5. Just about another turnover. On the sideline, though, was Clarence Jackson. Bob Wischusen alongside former Iona coach Tim Welch. He cut his teeth as a coach here in the MAAC before going to the Big East to take over Providence, but you are all too familiar with being the visiting team, as you said, in the so-called neutral court situation here in Albany.
Exactly, and I see Eddie Cooley over there, and it reminds me of being in that spot with this crowd gets cooking, and what they have to do right now is attack like they did in the first half. Right now they're kind of laying back, and Siena is feeling the pressure against them.
Fadeaway jumper by the freshman Derek Needham. Jackson tries to answer, blocked by Olander. A tie-up taken away by Franklin, and a foul call.
There's the intensity we talked about, and what Fairfield has to do. They kind of came out in this second half, 3 turnovers in the first 4 minutes. They only had 3 in the whole first half, but attack, and now Siena attacking as well. They didn't show that toughness in the first half, and Franklin really tough on the inside.
Alex Franklin, the MAAC Player of the Year. And talking to Fran McCaffrey, said, I was sitting next to Alex Franklin when he got that award. I've never felt happier for a young man than to watch him go up there and get that trophy, because no one talked about him being a Player of the Year type talent when he was a freshman. It was basically through hard work now as a senior that he was rewarded.
Absolutely. He was just kind of a power guy. Didn't have any skill, but now he's really improved this game on the perimeter.
Nickerson from the corner. Offensive rebound by the power guy for Fairfield, Anthony Johnson, but he can't hit. Franklin comes out of the pack. Franklin with the left hand. Can't finish. Ubelis with the putback. And the foul called on Anthony Johnson. That'll be his 3rd. So now a decision for Ed Cooley on what he does with his big center.
Well, Anthony Johnson faded away on that power move at the other end, wanted a foul, didn't get it. Then he kind of half jogged back himself. He imitated what Siena did in the first half, and then Franklin really took it to the cleaners, and then Ubelis with the follow-up and his foul. So he's got to get his head on straight here for Ed Cooley.
Familiar territory for Siena in this tournament. Trailed by 6 in the second half to Manhattan. Trailed by 6 in the second half to Ryder. And they trail by 6 right now. They're still down by 6. Only 1 of 2 for Eubulus.
Fairfield very fortunate. 2 possessions in a row. Siena unable to set up their pressure after the missed free throws.
For 3. Off the mark. Rossiter. Well, he always finds a way to get his hands on the basketball.
Tips it to himself. He just finds that little seam and goes and gets it.
Moore too strong. Johnson the rebound as Ed Cooley maybe gambling a bit, leaving his big man in the game with 3 fouls.
Now he's got to reorganize his thoughts out there. And there's a steal.
Eubulus takes it away.
Well, Eddie needs to get him out of the game, as we say in France, tout sweet, because he's hurting him right now. He's not playing with any mentality that will lead to success.
Fran McCaffrey looked less than pleased with the 360. It was a highlight. Eubulus might be on SportsCenter, but Fran McCaffrey was not pleased.
Well, he should be pleased with the energy, though. He just took the ball out of Johnson's mitts on that last possession.
Johnson this time muscles his way up. And Mike Kitt's on the baseline, not buying the flop from Alex Franklin.
Well, good adjustment there by the big fella Johnson. His head has not been in the game this half, and I think he's coming out of the game with Ivanovic.
Moore with the ball fake. Got the freshman in the air and scored around Needham. Only 4 points for Ronald Moore.
That's what he'll do. If the help doesn't come, he'll make you pay. He can score the ball.
Nickerson tied up, loose on the deck. And it's out of bounds off Eubulus. You're the visiting coach, as we said. You've been in this position before, even with some young players as Ed Cooley has tonight. What do you do to try and cool things down?
Stay the course. I mean, you don't get to this game. You don't win 22 games. You don't go through all the adversity they've had this year with the injuries and not be able to handle a lot of different situations. They knew at some point this bear of a crowd and team were going to come alive, so they just got to kind of hold court now in the next few minutes. I like Eddie's attitude over there. Very calm, just telling his players to settle down.
Shot clock at 7. Needham penetrates, rejected by Rossiter. And a good foul. They'll call it an intentional. Ed Cooley can't believe it. Brian Dorsey from the near side immediately signaled an intentional foul. So it's 2 shots and the ball. Now granted, Siena was about to break away. But let's take another look.
Well, he was doubly hot because he wanted the foul there on Needham and then the wraparound around the waist. Not sure. I think he could have called the foul, but he was kind of half making a play on the ball. Brian Dorsey thought not, though, from his angle.
Well, looking at it again, I think it was probably a good call. It didn't look like his intention was to try and take the ball away as much as Needham, as a freshman, and maybe in a way you reward the smart play, that he realizes this is going to be a free one the other way if I don't make a foul here. That's what he tried to do.
Yeah, I'm not sure, though. He had half his arm going in towards the ball. I think he could have just called the foul and played on, and no one would have said anything. But right now, Fairfield's got to reorganize their thoughts as far as being more aggressive on the offensive ends with their smarts.
Eubulus for the tie. Ivanovic off the tap from Anthony Johnson. Still, it's a 19-10 run by Siena since we started the second half.
Fairfield's got to space the court, work off Needham, and the high pick. He'll get trapped, but get the ball back to him on reversal, and he'll make good decisions with it.
Clock down to 10 for Fairfield. Crawford launches from the corner. And the long rebound run down by Lyndon Jordan. Knocked out of bounds drives by Franklin. Will step aside. 22 on the shot clock for Fairfield when we come back. But so far in the second half, it's been the Saints.
Well, it's been their defense, their energy, and Edwin Ublis. Brand didn't like it, but the crowd did.
Well, Ryan, another team will make their mark in the NCAA tournament field tonight here in the MAAC championship game. 5 teams in already. You and I were in Nashville to watch Murray State beat Morehead State in impressive fashion in the Ohio Valley in a number 1 against number 2 seed game. And tonight, championship week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods continuing here in the MAAC. Fairfield and Siena. It's the number 1 seed against the number 2 seed, and the number 2 seed had a 15-point lead. Fairfield did in the first half. It's down to 4 now, but Anthony Johnson scoring inside.
Give Ed Cooley credit. He stayed with Anthony Johnson, calmed him down during the timeout, and really made a tough shot there over to Rossiter.
Take away inside by Crawford, and a backhanded pass to Lyndon Jordan. What a terrific play by Sean Crawford.
And even a smarter play, not trying to attempt to go in there, getting it back out to Needham, reorganizing. Siena still in the 3-2 matchup.
Goes to Johnson again. The kick out, Needham. Off the mark, Ivanovic with the putback.
Well, that started with Anthony Johnson recognizing the trap, kicking it back out, ball reversal. Nice shot, miss. Ivanovic with the weak side tip.
Jackson for 3. Nice job underneath by Derek Needham, as he was able to box out Ublis and allow Johnson to come get the rebound.
Sometimes happens on that low box trap. As the shot gets put up on the ball reversal, the weak side blockouts aren't there.
Needham just about lost his balance. Now needs some help. Deflected by Ublis, tracked down by Crawford. 10 on the shot clock. Johnson travels. Tuesday championship week continues with full coverage of the first round of the Big East Championship. ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD have the day session covered. First at noon Eastern, South Florida against DePaul. Then at 2, it's UConn St. John's. And then starting at 7 Eastern, ESPNU and ESPNU HD will bring you the nighttime section. All of the games on our ESPN family of networks from the Big East tournament.
Fairfield's kind of weathered the storm here, Bob, and kind of settled down, especially on the defensive end. Tighter on ball reversal and traps.
Ublis a pull-up. Ublis has 17. He and Franklin have combined for 33 of Siena's 49.
Here's where Fairfield's had some problems this half. They don't have a guy behind. They need a guy behind Needham for help.
Takeaway by Franklin. Ublis lays it in. It's down to 2 again.
Fairfield's scheme, not what it needs to be against this ball pressure. 1-2-2. They need a guy behind the dribbler, and they're at a 5-second count.
That's the first time tonight we've seen the freshman make a freshman mistake.
Well, what happens here, Fairfield doesn't have anybody behind the ball. It's an outlet for Needham. He tries to throw it up the sideline where all the defenders are. And Siena doing a nice job of recovering and taking away that middle pass.
Cooley puts Anthony Johnson back in for Ivanovic. This is the MAAC championship game at the Times Union Center in Albany. I'm Bob Wischusen with Tim Welsh. A 15-point first half lead for Fairfield. The number 2 seed cut down to 2 by the number 1 seed Siena. Ublis underneath. Jackson tied up, blocked by Anthony Johnson. Crowd looking for a foul call, but that looked like perfect position by Anthony Johnson.
Tremendous job by Nickerson, giving up about 3 inches and 50 pounds on Ublis, but just sliding his feet and getting long.
Nickerson drives baseline. That shot deflected by Rossiter. Goes over to Siena. 8 minutes to go between Fairfield and Siena. The MAAC championship and a trip to the tournament hangs in the balance here in Albany. Don't go away.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. Every season starts at Dick's.
It's been 13 years since Fairfield punched a ticket to go to the NCAA tournament. Back in 1997 in the MAAC championship game in Buffalo, they took on Kenesha. So again, they were basically a pure road team. The Stags also that season were 11-18 and 2-12 in the regular season in the MAAC. But Greg Francis and Shannon Bowman combined for 48 points, and they won it 78-72. How about an 11-18 team? I mean, dead last seed, they were an 8 seed. 2-12 in the regular season. They got on a magical run. If they're able to hold on and win this game tonight, they would be even more deserving of that bid because they're a legit 2 seed this year.
Well, I happen to be one of the teams that they knocked out on the way to their title.
I didn't bring that up.
We didn't want to talk about that, but one of the best coaches I ever had to prepare for. Paul Cormier was the coach at Fairfield at the time. They had Greg Francis, Darren Phillips, Shannon Bowman, and a lot of injuries during the year. They were much better than an 8 seed, but Fairfield's had great tradition over the years, and the MAAC's had great tradition. Franny Fischella, John Beeline, we mentioned Paul Hewitt. A lot of great coaches in this league.
Ubilis inside. Gets the roll. And we are tied. A 15-point first half Fairfield lead is gone. And we're fresh with 7.5 minutes to go. Cheap foul called on Clarence Jackson out near midcourt. Jackson immediately signals over to Fran McCaffrey, saying, I want to stay in the game in spite of that being his 3rd foul.
Fairfield's got some major problems with this 1-2-2-3 quarter. They need to draw one guard behind the ball, or else they're going to continue to struggle if they try to just dribble up ball side, because they're going to face those traps.
Jackson has 3 fouls for Siena, and then 3 fouls on Anthony Johnson for Fairfield. That's really the only foul trouble for either team, but the bench dominant so far for Fairfield. Tip away, and another steal.
Siena just much more active this half. Out in the passing lanes, long, looking for deflections, moving their feet.
Ubilis a runner for the lead. Rossiter rips away the offensive rebound. Jackson for 3. Rossiter keeps it alive again, but it ends up with Olander.
Rossiter just coming from the free throw line just to go attack the ball. Doesn't do it with a lot of quicks or jumping ability, but just a knack and toughness.
Timeout called by Ed Cooley. So they'll have 2 remaining with 6.5 minutes to go. What was Fairfield doing in the first half, in your opinion? They're not doing in the second half, or is this more a different Siena team?
Well, first and foremost, Fairfield was getting runouts off their defense, which allowed Siena, and Siena had to walk the ball up. So Fairfield now in the second half, Siena's been more aggressive offensively. They've scored, allowed them to set up their press. And when that's happening, Fairfield's kind of been back on their heels. They've been slow to attack. They have to attack quicker.
And Siena also has a pretty good player in Edwin Ubilis.
Well, he's pretty good, and we talked about him last night. He didn't have the energy needed, and Fran McCaffrey kind of rolled his eyes when I mentioned it to him this morning, but he came out of the gate tonight on fire, ready to show people that he is one of the best players in this league, if not the best. And off the bounce, defense, taking the ball out of people's hands and just playing with a lot of awareness. Got a lot of length, too, at the top of that 1-2-2 press.
The 9th time this season that Edwin Ubilis has had 20 or more points in a game. He was number 1 this season in the MAAC in MAAC games from 3, number 2 in scoring, number 3 in overall field goal percentage. From the corner, Rossiter jumps out and blocks the shot of Sean Crawford.
When you talk about the difference, that did not happen in the first half. Fairfield reversed the ball to the corner, got wide open shots. This half, Siena getting out, closing out much quicker.
Ubilis again creates a shot. They're called for traveling.
Well, think Fran McCaffrey minds that. Good patience. Ublis trying to make something happen from the wing after a few passes. Now they get to set up the 1-2-2.
And Ed Cooley thought that his team would thrive if pressured in the backcourt, saying that that's something they've had great success against.
And they did a good job in the first half, but the second half they just have to slide that guard. The guard is just up on line with the ball. And he has no option over the top of the length of Ublis.
Needham, tough fade away. Can't get the roll. Offensive rebound by Johnson. Draws the foul. Rossiter got him on the wrist, so that'll put Anthony Johnson at the free throw line.
A tough shot here by Needham, but Johnson just a load inside, just driving people out of the way. Very fortunate there, though. Rossiter looked like he backed away.
MAAC Defensive Player of the Year now has 11. 5 minutes and 26 seconds to go, maybe more, before one of these two teams is in the NCAA tournament.
You can feel the energy level and a little bit of electricity kind of uneven right now. People want to know what's going to happen. Is Fairfield going to re-energize on offense and be a little bit smarter? Look for Fairfield to keep going to Johnson on the low box.
Nice no-look pass and a block by Johnson. He took the Rossiter flip and threw it into the third row.
You had a quick opening and then the door shut very quickly there on Rossiter. Great look, great catch, great pass inside, but Johnson just denied it.
Anthony Johnson was the Defensive Player of the Year. That's the Player of the Year. Going to the goal. Franklin couldn't hit. Rossiter, offensive rebound. Flips it back up and in. We're tied again.
Rossiter makes you pay if you don't put a body on him. He's got those long, lanky arms. And now here at the end of the clock, look for Needham to make something happen here at the top.
Ball kicked by Clarence Jackson. So that'll send the shot clock from 8 up to 15. Tuesday night on ESPN, Championship Week continues. 2 more conference championship games. First, the Big East women's title up for grabs between UConn and either Rutgers or West Virginia. Then the Horizon League at 9, Wright State and number 12 Butler. Championship Week presented by Dick's Sporting Goods. Coming up tomorrow night. Shot clock down to 6. Needham feeds the post. Johnson, turnaround. Can't dump it home. Ublis the rebound. 4 minutes away from a trip to the NCAA tournament for either Siena or Fairfield.
Siena's matchup zone giving Fairfield a lot of problems right now. They can't get anything going on the interior.
Moore's jumper won't go. Johnson high in the air for that rebound. Protects it like a fullback.
Nice scheme at halftime going to this 3-2, but Fairfield in their attack, they've got to get more movement by the player. They've got to get more cutting through this defense. Right now they're just passing it around the perimeter. There's nothing there.
Three on the way by Crawford. He's got it! The sophomore hits a triple, and Ed Cooley calls a timeout.
Fairfield just passed it around. They were just skipping the ball nicely, and then on the closeout, a little slow on the wing. You got the center coming out on the little guard. Made him pay.
How about Ed Cooley's team, though? Up 15 in the first half against a team that's been to the NCAA tournament the last 3 straight years in Siena. And 4 years in a row they've been in the championship game, and they're on their home floor, and yet it's Needham, Crawford, and Nickerson, 2 freshmen and a sophomore that are out there for crunch time, basically in charge of running things.
When you talk about maturity beyond their years, I'm just so impressed with Derek Needham, not only as a player, but just as a leader, as a coach on the floor, directing traffic, not only on offense, but on defense, shoving guys into the right spot, talking all the time, pointing, directing. Unbelievable.
Ed Cooley said that when he saw Derek Needham the first time, he said that guy's going to be the leading scorer in the history of Fairfield basketball. I can tell you right now, at the end of his career, he's going to be the best player we ever had. And he went up to him day one of practice and said, "Kid, you shoot it whenever you want to." It's a lot of confidence to have in a freshman. Jackson comes up way short. Big rebound, though, to Moore. And a foul called on the floor. We'll step aside. 3:13 to go in the second half of the MAAC championship game. Either Fairfield or Siena going to the NCAA tournament. We'll have the stretch run when we come back. Championship week continues. Ryan here in Albany will punch a ticket about 3 minutes and 13 seconds from now as Fairfield up by 15 in the first half in the MAAC championship game. Had the lead cut all the way down to 0. Twice Siena has tied it in the second half, but they haven't been able to get over the top. It was 13-12 in the first half the last time Siena had the lead.
Well, great poise here by Fairfield, withstanding that wave of Siena pressure, but understanding that it's going to come back again every time they score. The 1-2-2 press.
Franklin crosses over, gets into the lane with the left hand, plus the foul. Anthony Johnson picks up his 4th foul in the process.
Well, Alex Franklin, this is the improved part of his game. Off the bounce, a little crossover like a 2-guard, and then delivering with the left off the window and the foul. He was a straight low block player, but that was the move and deft quickness of a 2-guard out there by Franklin.
Missed the free throw, though, so it's still a 1-point Fairfield lead.
On the last possession, Fairfield just passed it around the corner on the top and got lucky when Crawford got open, but they need to get some penetration.
Needham straight away. Long rebound. Moore taps it around. Rossiter on the deck. Tied up by Ivanovic. Held ball, and it goes to Fairfield. Check that, pardon me. Siena has the loose ball. They have the possession arrow. Olander back on, replacing Ivanovic.
That's why it's very important for the players out there on the floor to understand who has the possession arrow. As an assistant coach, you have to remind your players. Head coach is thinking about a million things, but the last thing the assistant has to say, breaking out of that timeout, who has the arrow? Especially Fairfield. Now they have the arrow coming back. They can't afford to fall on a ball and call timeout. They only have 1 timeout left. If they fall on the ball, take the possession arrow instead of the timeout.
Fairfield trying to go to the NCAA tournament and win a championship in this conference for the first time since 1997 against the Siena dynasty. Moore for the lead. Got it!
Well, he's done it before. These fans saw it last year in the NCAA tournament against Ohio State. He did it twice. He's smiling again tonight.
Crawford tries to answer the long rebound. Crawford's got it back. Skips one to Nickerson. Crawford with a floater, comes up short. Johnson had the rebound in his hand. It floats out to Franklin. Timeout called. Siena's got the ball. This shot by the senior Ronald Moore gave Siena the lead for the first time since it was 13-12.
Well, Fran McCaffrey talked about it. Rarely you hear a coach say a 22% three-point shooter can step up and shoot him anytime he wants, but he's got confidence in that man because of heart, experience, senior leadership.
The possession arrow back with Fairfield, but they only have one timeout left. Siena with plenty of timeouts and plenty of fouls to give as well. They can be very aggressive defensively. And you look at their resume. Joe Lenardi has them with an RPI of 37, but the strength of schedule way down at 140th. They haven't beaten any teams in the top 50, so this really is going to be a one-bid league, isn't it, Tim? They have to win this game.
Yeah, it's unfortunate with 26 wins to say that about a team, but they had the opportunity early in the year, albeit all on the road. Unfortunately, they didn't have any opportunity here, but where they usually clean up the opponents, and right now, Fairfield's got to clean up their defense on the weak side. They're helping out on the drives on the box, but on the weak side, they have to close out much quicker. Fairfield playing man-to-man. Now at the end of the shot clock, Siena loves to go for a low box screen on the interior.
The shot clock down to 10. Tries to slip one through to Rossiter. Deflected by Ivanovic. He takes it away and gets it to Needham. Numbers 3-on-2 for Fairfield. The freshman Nickerson lays it in and we're tied again.
Hustle and grit for Fairfield, and they got the ball in the hands of one of the best at finishing plays. Okay, now again, look for the inside screen. I would say they want to get the ball inside to Franklin for a low post move or try to get him to the foul line at some point.
Moore goes to work. Shot clock down to 9. To the corner, Rossiter for the lead. In and out. The rebound pulled down by Anthony Johnson. 20 seconds to go. Still one timeout left for Fairfield. Let's see if Ed Cooley calls it. His freshman's in trouble, and he's fouled. Now, it's only the third team foul on Siena, so they can be very aggressive defensively. They've got a couple of more fouls to give in the last 13 seconds.
Ed Cooley's got to make a decision if he wants a time, and he's going to take it, which is very interesting. He wants to make sure he's organized, but now they've got to get the ball in bounds now with no timeouts left.
That's amazing. Fairfield had a 15-point lead in the first half. Siena comes back and ties it a couple of times, and eventually the answer again, freshman to freshman, as Needham finds Nickerson. If I would have told Ed Cooley, 15-point lead in the first half, I'm sure he would have taken it in a heartbeat. But if I would have told him at shoot-around today, you'll have the ball, 13 seconds to go with a chance to win if the game's tied, you think he would have taken that?
Oh, absolutely. Clearly that he's feeling good about what he has right now because he's got the guy at the top in Needham that will make a decision. The ball will be in his hand, there's no doubt about it, until about inside 5 seconds on the clock. And then he won't necessarily take the last shot, but he will either take the last shot or make the delivery for the last shot. They'll try to take it with about 3 so they can get up on the boards and Johnson for a tip-in, but they don't want Siena to have any chance to come the other way.
Tomorrow, championship week will continue with a full coverage day of the first round of the Big East Championship. ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD will have the day session covered. First at noon Eastern, South Florida and DePaul, and UConn St. John's at 2. And starting at 7 Eastern, ESPNU and ESPNU HD will bring you the night session. Georgetown, Marquette, Notre Dame among the group awaiting the first round winners. Fairfield out of timeouts. The Stags have the possession arrow.
And the Stags have the possession arrow, but clearly Siena has an advantage on defense. They still have 3 fouls to give here. So if Needham does make a move here inside 5 seconds, Siena has to foul him and make Fairfield take the ball out of bounds. They've got 3 fouls to give. You can guarantee they're going to whack him here as he comes over half court.
Here goes Needham. And he's fouled. Ronald Moore with one of those fouls to give. Needham with a smile on his face pointing up at the sky saying, hey, I was shooting. No. That's a foul on the floor. And he and Ronald Moore share a smile. How about that? A freshman point guard with a big smile on his face with 7 seconds to go in a championship game.
Well, they better be careful here in the backcourt. They don't have a lot of time. He's got to go, and they've got to foul first.
Pocket picked by Moore and a foul call. Jim Haney calls the personal on Moore, and that's Moore's 4th. He needs to be careful. He just gave up a couple of quick fouls. If we go to overtime, Ronald Moore's in danger of fouling out.
Now, if I'm Ed Cooley, I try to go right inside from this position here. So now, even though you know Siena is going to foul you, you still, now on the next play, you will get the ball out of bounds underneath the basket, which is much easier to score, obviously, than on the sideline.
Let's see if Fran McCaffrey takes Ronald Moore out of the game here. You want your senior point guard out there to cover the freshman of the year, who is the point guard for Fairfield. The only danger is, even if Fairfield fails to score and this game goes to overtime, Ronald Moore might foul out. He just gave 2 quick fouls and went from 2 fouls to 4 fouls in a blink.
Well, absolutely, and I think right now, though, what's got to happen is they've got to post up Anthony Johnson, space out their shooters, try to get him in a one-on-one situation right from half court, throw it directly inside. Even if Siena intercepts the ball on the inside in the lane, they'll only have about 2 seconds to go the length of the floor. That way Fairfield has some sort of shot of getting the ball at the rim.
The winner goes to the tournament. 2.7 seconds to go. Ivanovic will throw in for the Stags. Needham gets a shot off. The foul called. And they will say it is a foul on the floor on Ubilis. Well, now Siena's out of fouls to give. That's team foul number 6. So with 1.4 seconds to go, Fran McCaffrey yelling over from the Siena sideline, making sure his players know the next foul either way, and we're shooting. Ivanovic throws in again to Nickerson for the win. Overtime in the MAAC championship game.
Great strategy from both benches there. Fairfield's got a pretty decent look. They couldn't get the ball inside, though, to their big guy to try to get to the foul line for a 2-shot foul. Siena, great strategy using their fouls properly here in the last 10 seconds.
Sure, the only small downside for Fran McCaffrey is that his point guard picked up 2 of those fouls. And now he's got 4 going to overtime. That shot was pretty good in the air from Colin Nickerson. 2 freshmen in the backcourt for Ed Cooley, charged with trying to win the MAAC championship game.
Nice job there by Nickerson, but also a better job by Jackson getting up on his shoe tops. Tremendous contest. Both teams executing very, very well. And you talked about the 4 fouls by Moore. On that last possession, Ubilis was guarding the little guy Needham. So you'll see that again if they're in man-to-man. But I expect Siena to go back to that 3-2 zone that's been very successful here in the second half.
And some kudos as well to Mike Kitts, Jim Haney, and Brian Dorsey. This has been a very contentious game, as you would imagine, with a trip to the tournament on the line, and it's been very well officiated.
Well, if I tell you as an ex-coach, you see these 3 guys walk on the floor, you feel very comfortable. There's been no drama, and that's because they've done a great job. But here, Ubilis, the senior leader out there, second half doing a lot for them, and then Jackson doing things off the bounce, making sure this is not his last home game. And then when it was needed, Moore from downtown like he did in the NCAA tournament last year.
Moore, Ubilis, and Franklin, very celebrated careers. The Siena senior class, a 96-37 record, and when you win 96 games in 4 years at Siena, that's like winning 115 games in 4 years at North Carolina. I mean, as Fran McCaffrey said earlier today, these kids have won a lot of games, and we don't buy any of them. There aren't a lot of guarantee games on Siena's schedule. They have to earn every win that they get because their out-of-conference schedule is usually the type of schedule that's meant to build a resume.
Well, if they were able to get some of these teams to come into this building this year, there's no doubt in my mind, clearly, they would be in the NCAA tournament as an at-large already. But unfortunately for them, they had to go on the road and weren't able to get any of those. But right now, it's not about that. It's about these next 5 minutes of execution here. Man-to-man by Fairfield early.
Franklin leans in. Siena's got the lead back to start overtime. 20 points for Alex Franklin, pardon me.
Great body control there by the big fella. Just splitting the seam from the elbow, getting all the way to the rack.
Nickerson to the corner. Ivanovic leads the post to Johnson.
Keep going into Johnson because he draws a lot of action in there and he can kick it back out to the shooters.
Clock at 7. Needham for 3. In and out. Rebounds to Alex Franklin.
I like that possession though by Fairfield. Throw it into the big guy, track the double team, the trap, support, and then kick it back out, get the open look.
Franklin with the left hand, too strong. Rossiter's tip. This is Siena's largest lead.
Johnson did a good job defensively there, but the backside coverage wasn't there for Rossiter.
Edom splits the D, and then Franklin knocked the bounce pass intended for Johnson out of bounds.
Ryan Rossiter doesn't need much room on that backside. He's got those long arms, big hands, and he just reached over Ivanovic for the easy tip in on the backside.
Olander back in, replacing Sean Crawford, so a much bigger lineup now on the floor for Fairfield. I think this is the first time we've seen the three big men all in the game at the same time. Anthony Johnson, Ryan Olander, and Mike Ivanovic all on the floor. Now this makes them a much slower sideline to sideline defensive team, I would think.
It could be problematic at the other end, but right now they need a score. Maybe he'll call a timeout on a make. Ivanovic can stretch that defense, make a quick three in the corner.
Lobbed into Johnson. Clock winding down, back outside. Nickerson drives it. Finger roll is good.
Again, that's what they need to do, Fairfield. Go inside to the big guy, get the defense shrunk, and then kick it back out.
They'll go zone now with Ivanovic up at the top of the zone. Ubelis drives it. Now Moore with a reset. Ubelis from the corner. Air ball. Rossiter's got it. Shot clock down to 5. Rossiter back to Ubelis with 2 on the shot clock. A leaner is good.
That possession was just all pure guts by Siena. Not much technical-wise, but they just finished the play with Rossiter with the extra hustle.
Ivanovic is the three-point specialist calling for it. Gets it into Johnson. And he's fouled by Rossiter. And Rossiter nods in agreement with the call made by Brian Dorsey. So Anthony Johnson will go to the free throw line. Third foul on Rossiter.
Rossiter always seems to have a nose for the ball. He just comes out of nowhere here. Finding that open man. Took it from one side of the floor to the other. Falling down. And then Ubelis delivered.
Turner about to come back in for the first time in a long time. Ivanovic goes to the bench. This makes Fairfield a much quicker defensive team at the other end.
Well, quicker to the loose balls. They're doing a pretty good job of containing on the perimeter, and Siena's not really getting a lot of movement or penetration, but those loose balls and shots off the rim, they're much quicker right now than Fairfield.
Fairfield get back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1997. There will be 4 straight trips for Siena. Franklin inside. Got it.
Fairfield went back to the man-to-man there, and Franklin saw Olander out on the perimeter, and that great new move he has. Little spin to the lane. He ate him up.
Nickerson somehow broke free. Blocking foul called on Rossiter. That's his 4th. It'll be a 1-and-1 for Colin Nickerson. The Southern Conference Championship game, Appalachian State and Wofford just about set to get underway. We will take you there as soon as the MAAC Championship game is done.
And Nickerson really lucky here. There wasn't anywhere to go. And Rossiter, they kind of collided. Mike Kitts had the call. He was right on it, but not really as great play by Nickerson. He's got to get the ball outside and kick it around from the perimeter, not baseline.
80% free throw shooter, but he's a freshman, and the freshman pulls the string, but the senior gets the rebound. A held ball. Possession arrow gives it back to Fairfield.
think anybody in the house expected him to miss like that, but Johnson just came barreling in, and everyone kind of moved out of the way, and great second effort there by Anthony Johnson.
Double-double for Anthony Johnson, 14 points. That was his 12th rebound. Appalachian State and Wofford is on deck. We have to wait for the end of the MAAC championship game. The winner of Fairfield and Siena going to the NCAA tournament. Fairfield had a 15-point first-half lead, erased by the Saints. And we're now in overtime.
Fairfield likes to go back to Needham on the weak side on baseline out-of-bounds plays. Siena, good job finding it.
Into the corner. Crawford for three. Off the mark. Tapped around. Somehow finding it was Johnson, but he couldn't corral it. It'll be a held ball again. Franklin tied up by Needham, and the possession arrow this time gives it to Siena.
And you know what's at stake here. You've got elbows and arms and ears and teeth. Everybody loose. They want the title. Great contest there by Rossiter, too. And the ball just coming off funny, and Johnson really laying it all on the line, but Siena just a little bit quicker to the ball.
The crowd was looking for a foul call, but again, I thought that was a great no call by the officials as Needham and Crawford simply came in and held the ball. So now we're down to about the last minute of overtime, and Fairfield desperately needs a stop down four.
Fairfield's got their small lineup in there. Jamal Turner's guarding Jackson. Look for him to try to isolate down low at the end of the clock.
8 to shoot for Eubulus. Fade away. No good. Johnson the rebound again. Needham attacks. He fades away off the glass. Rossiter the rebound. Now you have the foul. Shot clock turned off. And they will give the foul on Eubulus. Only a 63% free throw shooter, but that's a senior stepping up to the line as opposed to a freshman.
Well, Fairfield was outstanding on the defensive end, making Eubulus take a tough shot. They ran it out, had the ball in the hand of the guy they wanted. Got a pretty good shot off the window, just couldn't finish.
Team foul number 7. A 1-and-1 for Eubulus.
Last few minutes here, Bob. Siena's just showing a little bit more experience with finishing off plays and that toughness on the second and third attempt.
He's got it. With that free throw, Eubulus just passed Kenny Hasbrook. He's the third all-time leading scorer in Siena history, up to 24 tonight.
Siena throw soft pressure. They'll go 1-2-2 back to the 3-2 just to take a little bit more time off the clock.
Brian McCaffrey calls a timeout to set up his defense. 30 seconds to go in the MAAC championship game after we head back to the studio and check in with Brian Burke. All right, Ryan, thanks very much. Here with Tim Welsh. A 6-point lead for Siena. They have turned a 15-point first-half deficit into a 6-point lead in overtime, and that's the student section that has largely come down from the upper deck to crowd the lower deck. You know, people asked me about championship week and how much fun it is to work, and I said, you know, obviously if you were at the ACC tournament or the Big East tournament or the Big 12, how much more fun could you have there? But when you get a chance to do the MAAC championship game or the Southern Conference coming up next between Appalachian State and Wofford, you just saw Old Dominion. They won, and their fans rushed the court. We do 4 championship games this week. We got 4 guaranteed court celebrations. It doesn't matter who wins. Somebody's storming the court when you've got these smaller conferences that play their entire season just for this opportunity.
Well, that's what's the fun part about this. But right now, Eddie Cooley's trying to keep those green and yellow people up in the stands. And what he has to do is they have to quick attack. They're going to face this 1-2-2 press and try to space the court, maybe get a shooter like Ivanovic down in the corner on a skip to try to get a quick free in the 10 seconds into the clock here, and then quickly a timeout and a foul.
The possession arrow is back with Fairfield. They've only scored 1 basket so far in overtime, and Siena, who has come from behind, as you saw, in each round so far in the MAAC tournament, trying to pull off the come-from-behind win again. 1 timeout left for the Stags. No fouls to give for either team. Nickerson can't take his time. Down by 6. Nickerson leans in. Way short. Rossiter's got it. Pushed out of bounds by Johnson. Anthony Johnson has fouled out. Well, you think it doesn't hurt when you come this close to going to the NCAA tournament and you're about to fall short, you know it, and you're a senior?
Well, Siena has been there all year, and Fairfield will be back in this game. There's no question about it, with Ed Cooley and Derek Needham and what he's built in this program. But really, Bob, if I had to surmise just the end of regulation, what happened and why Siena looks like it's going to win this game, it's because what they've done all season long, and people don't really talk about it much, but they commit the fewest fouls per game in the country, and they had the 4 fouls to give in the last 13 seconds of the game, which never allowed Fairfield to get a good, clean look or get Needham to the rack. And tonight, again, they didn't commit the fouls, and at the end of the game, it was to their benefit.
Siena does not send you to the line often. Ryan Rossiter, 78% free throw shooter. Misses the front end. Maybe a little bit of life as Needham drives it. Gets bumped by Rossiter. So Derek Needham will have a chance to score with the clock stopped. That was the last thing that Fran McCaffrey wanted.
Well, it is the last thing, but the one thing I don't like is, from a coaching perspective, is teams that just let the other team just go in and score at the end of games, and you're just trading layups and you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. So they tried to defend him there, and Rossiter just slid over and bumped him.
So Rossiter fouls out after picking up his 21st double-double of the season. 10 points and 12 rebounds for the junior. And his parents have had a chance to watch a lot of these nail-biters. He's got an older brother, Steve, that started every game this season for Davidson. But, of course, he was part of that elite run with Steph Curry. And barring a miracle, Ryan Rossiter is going to be back in the NCAA tournament again. A lot of frequent flyer miles for the Rossiters back and forth from here to the Carolinas.
You just have to admire Siena's composure, getting way down in this game. And you got the coach on the sidelines who never batted an eye. He talks about the trust he's had in this ball club, his seniors, and going back to when it started when he got here with Antoine Jordan and just passing the torch, Kenny Hasbrook, and now he's got the 3 great seniors tonight, and obviously followed up with the great junior in Rossiter.
Only 1 of 2 for Derek Needham. 5-point game with 12 seconds to go. Ubilis quickly fouled by Nickerson. Appalachian State and Wofford again in the Southern Conference Championship game. Just underway. We'll get you there as soon as we're done here with overtime.
Well, big key tonight for Siena on top of everything else has been this man right here, Edwin Ubilis. Watching last night's game, I was really surprised kind of the way he came out, kind of flatlined it all night long. And as we talked about before, I mentioned that to Fran, and he kind of rolled his eyes like, yeah, you saw it too. But he has a lot of trust, and he came out today ready to go, firing on all cylinders, very, very aggressive, not only on offense, but defensively, at times having to guard Derek Needham down at the other end with his length.
The senior ties his season high for this season with that free throw. And it's a new season high for Edwin Ubilis. 27 points.
And how about that guy? Not even first team all league. There must be some good players in this league, that's for sure, because he is terrific.
Well, Ronald Moore was first team. Ryan Rossiter was first team. Alex Franklin was the player of the year in the conference. Clarence Jackson was third team. Edwin Ubilis was second team. It's the first time in the 30-year history of the MAAC that a team's starting five have all been all MAAC on one team or another.
Very interchangeable, and it goes with how good this league is, but also this program. And I think you could say Ronald Moore could be the player of the year, and I don't think anybody would bat an eye. Or Edwin Ubilis, even though he's second team, could be the player of the year. Just very, very trusting each other and unselfish. They don't care about the awards. They care about what's going on here tonight at the end of this game.
Needham for three. Way short. It's grabbed by Franklin, and that'll do it. For the fifth time in their history in the third year in a row, Siena are the MAAC champions. They were the #1 seed all season long, Tim Welsh. They went 17-1 in the regular season. They made it as hard on themselves as they possibly could in this tournament, but they win it in overtime, coming from 15 down in the first half to win their 5th all-time MAAC title.
Well, they did it in a lot of different ways, but the main thing they had tonight was composure. They didn't bat an eye. They kept playing their game, and they were just aggressive, team play. True champion here in the MAAC.
7-point win for Siena in overtime. They're the MAAC champions, and they're going to the tournament. Coming up next, the Southern Conference Championship, Appalachian State and Wofford. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For Tim Welsh and our entire crew, I'm Bob Wischusen. So long from Albany. Now let's go down to Charlotte. Carter Blackburn and Mark Gottfried with the Southern Conference Championship game. Carter?